In my recent Clan Toreador video, I talked about how I'm pretty apathetic to vampires in general. I really don't care about most vampire fiction, and a lot of portrayals I personally find boring because it's just, wow, that's a guy who has to drink blood and can't go outside sometimes. I find that boring because I like it when a vampire is a monster. And I don't just mean that in they're horrific people, they do evil acts. I don't fully mean it like that. I mean that they're not human. They are something else. Which it's this aspect that gets me super into Vampire the Masquerade, and honestly just a lot of the portrayals in World of Darkness. My two favorites are Vampire the Masquerade and Mage the Ascension. Vampire the Masquerade, I think, does such a good job at nailing the vibe it wants to go for, especially in 5th edition. I think we rail on 5th edition. It has some reasons I think it deserves it, even though mechanically speaking, I think 5th edition is very strong. As its own core rules, I think V5 has a lot you should actually pay attention to, regardless of how you feel about some lore changes or how character creation is done. Two of the things I think are the weakest, to be fair. That aspect of humanity is so prevalent in Vampire because, especially now, it's really trying to nail that personal horror. That idea of you are not human anymore. You are a monster losing touch with humanity. And how do you adapt to a world where you have to do horrific things to live now? You have immortality. And to eat, to sustain yourself, inevitably causes harm to somebody. How do you get by? Speaking of vampires causing harm to somebody, that reminds me, you should get cybersecurity. How's that for a segue? But I am affiliated with NordVPN. I have links in the description if you want NordVPN or NordPass, both very helpful cybersecurity tools. So if you're interested in a membership there, use my links. But this video, the point of this video is to really focus on humanity and how that plays into vampires. Is a very different video for me. It's honestly a little bit of rules. I'm going to be going into some mechanics, but tying it into how it's used in lore. So don't worry. But I think we should get a baseline before I go into the many different ways this has popped up and been portrayed in Vampire editions. So, humanity. What is humanity? Pure mechanically in the game, humanity is essentially a separate health bar. It is a tracker that is from 0 to 10. Usually, a player character will land at number 6 or 7 on their humanity, depending on some choices made in character creation, and this humanity tracker will usually go down. It can go up, but it's very hard. Will go down if you do things that are inherently inhuman, as in evil. If you just murder someone for no reason, that is going to affect your humanity, because humanity is a statistical representation of your last ties to being human. If you're very freshly turned, you're usually going to have humanity 7, and this represents that you are still in touch with your human self. You still remember everything. But after hundreds of years of unlife, it's hard to keep that connection. I also call it like a second health bar because reaching 0 in your humanity is bad. As a vampire, you are in constant quarrel with your beast, the predatory aspect of being a vampire that is actively pushing and pulling you to become a monster. Your beast is the thing that pushes you when you're drinking to drink fully, to drain someone, killing them. It's often pushing you to get stains on your humanity tracker and to bring you down. The beast is often referred to as a demonic entity, not literally demonic, as demonic in World of Darkness is something very specific, but it feels like this other force, all with different clan variations. The lowest level you can reach is obviously 0, and if you get to 0, your beast fully takes over. You are in a constant frenzy. You are not even there anymore. This is considered character death, and you become a wight, a creature purely in frenzy that will inevitably have to be put down. Keeping touch with your humanity is very important because, one, it keeps you from dying essentially, and obviously this isn't even just like a keep your mental health up good. There is a literal tangible threat of death. Even worse by the fact that staining your humanity is kind of easy. Getting it back is hard because you, as an immortal creature, as something who is different, not human, and has to honestly reshape your thinking to live comfortably as a vampire. How do you reconnect with humanity after being a vampire for, say, like 300 years? How do you do that? That's the horror of Vampire the Masquerade, which I really, really enjoy. I find that spooky. I find that really terrifying, that becoming a vampire and losing complete ties with everything you wanted as a human, everything you cared about, all the sensations you enjoyed, the simple pleasures of like taking a good nap, eating a tasty dinner, having sex, all that's gone. You're never going to experience that again. With circumstances, V5 changed some aspects in a way I kind of like. I'll get to that later. The way humanity has been treated is something that's been changed throughout editions, so I'm going to start with some of the older editions and give you a framework and how it's been played with there. As well, there's one I always like to play. There's a very good quote. This is from Bloodlines, it's from a dope character, Jack, and he talks about the kind of mental framework you have to readjust to as a vampire. I'll let the man speak for himself.
What's on your mind? What about him? What do I think of humans? I don't, really. When you were alive, did you think about cows? You know, if one got killed, I bet you didn't cry, but, you know, you're not out there slaughtering them for sport either. Ah, man, we got our own problems. Let the kin sink or swim.
There's a delightful tracker from the older editions, this table that kind of pinpoints a word that describes each humanity level. Jack is really clearly advocating for level 5, where you are detached from humanity. Viewing humanity as cattle. You're not going to be sad when a human dies, but if someone was just slaughtering them in front of you, you're going to be grossed out the same way you as a human would be grossed out if a human did this to cows. I think it's a really good analogy. That's why I use it all the time. And as well, with the same table, I said that a player character is usually going to start at 6 or 7, depending on how old they want their vampire to be, other choices they made in character creation. 7 is the standard though. So yeah, this table lays it all out pretty well, but there's one thing I haven't talked about, purposefully. 10. Older Vampire made this more of like a present thing, and a lot of what I'm going to immediately pull from here is from Revised Edition. There's a dope book you should check out called Chaining the Beast. It's just like the most helpful book on humanity and the ways you can play with it in your game. It's very good. The 20th Anniversary Edition also builds off of the stuff like this framework from Revised, so if you're playing in those editions, this is a good resource. 10 humanity is essentially enlightenment. Enlightenment or Golconda, there's some other names for it. Other times, reaching humanity 10 is viewed as a form of redemption, which I'll get to that one in just a second. Golconda is enlightenment and becoming fully in tune with your beast. I have a video on Saulot because a lot of the Golconda lore comes from Saulot, because inherently, we don't really know what it is. There's not rules for Golconda because there doesn't need to be. This is essentially a character ender, not in the same way that you're dead, but in the way that Golconda is very hard to reach. Becoming this level of enlightened and human again as a vampire is something only done by like single digits. At this level of humanity, you are in perfect control of your beast. There's no more temptation, there's no more pushing. This is a hard thing to do because at some stage, you're going to lose humanity. It's not a question of if, it's when. Eventually, your beast is going to beat you in willpower. It is going to push you to do something. To reach the level of Golconda, you need to have like an unheard of amount of willpower. So even first and foremost, you have to learn that it exists, which not a lot of vampires are actively talking about. Many don't know, others think the pursuit is stupid. Reaching this level is a character goal. By the end of the campaign you're playing, if you reach Golconda, that's your reward. Your character is set aside. And there's some rough concepts of what we know it does, but it's nothing concrete. Your beast is shackled to you, maybe you've merged with it, you've killed it mentally, whatever you've done, so frenzy doesn't exist for you anymore. You need significantly less blood to get by. You have access to like every discipline. You could have your bane removed, and some say that you can even reverse vampirism and become human again. That I personally doubt, but this is playing into that idea of redemption I talked about. This harkens back to Cain with the many different angels that visited him. According to the Book of Nod, Archangel Gabriel offered Cain a path of redemption. He can repent, he can return to God and get this curse removed. This is something Cain refused. Gabriel made it clear that this is something that is open to all his childhood. However, if you read the Arestes fragment, it gives a different story, where in this telling, Gabriel gives that option of redemption, but it means God killing Cain. Cain refused, and then out of anger, Archangel Gabriel cursed him. Though it should be also noted, the Arestes fragment is believed to be written by Cain, so it's dependent on how much you want to trust the man. You shouldn't trust any primary source in World of Darkness to be 100% correct. That's the point of it. A lot of those early vampire history is apocryphal. That's where some of this comes from. There is a path to something different, and it is a difficult path, a very difficult one. There is something known as the downward spiral, where once your humanity starts to slip as a vampire, many times it keeps going down. your moral framework is slipping. If you're not careful, this can return to you being a white or having a really low humanity and becoming an awful, awful thing, awful monster. And like I said, reaching humanity 10, raising your humanity is very difficult. So what happens when you're, say, a humanity 9, and then finally your beast gets one over on you and you slip? You fall harder as a good person who tried for maybe even hundreds of years to get to a perfect state, to reach that enlightenment, and you slip back down to the beginning. There's a lot of kindred in their unlives that have done this and have slipped, kept slipping, because what's the point anymore? Why would I restart? That took forever. Might as well be the monster I clearly am. Or, I can't face this, might as well go out with the sunrise. There are many different directions you could take when it comes to reaching some form of enlightenment, or even refusing it. This is where we get to a very interesting mechanic that was introduced, Chaining the Beast, Revised Edition, the paths of enlightenment. These are interesting mechanically. I have thoughts. These are best viewed as like Paladin Oaths from 5th edition. They are new morality tenets your character follows. And this is what affects your humanity now. It's not just, did you violently murder an innocent person? Now it's whatever the tenets are. Roleplay wise, that's pretty cool. Hey, this gives me a framework to like play a monster, play a different moral code. It's very clear. These are different moral codes that are very different from our human ideas of morality, so they get a little dark. However, and the game designers agree with me here, mechanically speaking, this is permission to murder hobo for some of these. Because if a player is going to be chaotic, disruptive, and essentially the type of player I don't like at my table. I play very narrative heavy roleplay games. So if someone comes in and murder hobos, it's really annoying. This just gives a rule framework to play with that, which is the problem, and the designers said as much, because they're like, don't use it like this, only use it at the paths if you're going whole hog. It is a very optional mechanic, but the actual content of this book is very sick. I'm gonna give you a couple examples of the paths because I think they're fun. First one, I'll just go in. It's the first one in the book. It's called the Path of the Beast. It's very gangrel. Path of the Beast is a philosophy that says, you're a beast, you're a monster, all right, fuck it, man. It really goes in on the predatory aspect of being a vampire. You exist to hunt and to drink. So do it at all times. Be stronger. Be the monster. Don't go around in like social circles, hang out with humans or other vampires. Why do you want to do your hair and your makeup and your clothes? What are you, a loser? Go hang out in the woods and hunt hikers. This is like the lightest form of we are monsters, let's be monsters. I'll get into that a little later. They're not all like evil, kinda. There's a bunch that are a bit more positive. Here's one I really like. It's called the Path of Cain. This is becoming a Nodus scholar, becoming obsessed with Nodus scholarship and vampire history, which is a concept that's hit in vampire society a lot. This is why the Camarilla doesn't tell people that the antediluvians are real, because vampires tend to get very obsessive, really, really locked in on a subject. It's also why the topic of Gehenna is dangerous, because a lot of times that's going to cause vampire doomsday cults. But by going whole hog into Nodus thought, you will start to embrace the fact that Cain is the first vampire. He's the perfect form of a vampire. So, to be better, you must be like Cain. This is like almost a religious fascination and worship of Cain. It is extolling his virtues and seeing the mistakes he made and being like, well, I'm not going to make that mistake. Cain taught me that that's bad. Like Cain killing Abel was letting his beast take hold. Not literally, that's just their philosophy. So killing with your beast, having your beast push you like that is a bad thing. However, because God made Cain a vampire, it therefore means God is permitting the idea of vampires being monsters and existing in the world, so humans are your prey. Though you shouldn't like expose your existence to them, you should live inside of human society and be that monster that God clearly wants you to be. And lastly, I think the best example of the issues I'm talking about, the Path of Revelation, otherwise known as the Path of the Devil. This is a moral framework that's, again, we're monsters, so let's be horrific. There are no laws because we are beasts, we are monsters. Following laws themselves is bad to our nature unless you're following the laws of hell. It is the philosophy of we as monsters are designated to go to hell. We are cursed by God, and that's where we're ending up. So what's the point? If an idiot is trying to get enlightened, kill them. If someone's standing in your way, kill them. Be horrific and make this world hell. This is one of the few where I'm like, this is just permission to murder hobo. Why would I allow this in my party? Like, unless we're all doing this and just going on a one-shot murder romp for fun in the really engaging combat mechanics of Vampire the Masquerade, I say sarcastically, it's fine. I've just played a lot of tabletop games that do combat significantly better, but the passive enlightenment was dropped in the V5 jump. Something I'm not, like, as I should be really clear as I'm saying this, I'm not against that. I don't think it was a bad idea to get rid of this. Mechanically, it's just troubling. It's got issues mechanically. I love the concept though. Like a lot of things in World of Darkness, I'm like, damn, what a sick idea. Mechanically speaking, what are you thinking? V5 alters a bit how humanity is done. Largely though, for the better. Like I've said many times, the core rules are really good. If you want to play like 20th edition Anniversary Vampire, which is personally my favorite edition, I think, if anything, just take the blood and humanity mechanics from V5, port it over. I think it's super easy. Big reason I say this is because in V5, humanity has stats. Each level is statted out. And I think that rules, actually. Again, you start at 7 or 6, depending. A big mechanic that the humanity levels actually play with is called the Blush of Life. Blush of Life is an ability that you can kind of do whenever, and it essentially mirrors a lot of human aspects of a vampire. Very temporarily, you tap into being a human. You got blood floating around your body, a lot of it you drank, but you can manipulate it and force it to give you a Blush of Life. A lot of times this is like bringing warmth back to your body. Because, you know, if you're trying to trick someone that you're human and you shake them with a very, very cold, dead hand, it gives it away. But if you make it nice and warm, it's an easy trick. Blush of Life becomes stronger and stronger as you go up in humanity, even to the point where you can, again, eat and drink food. As a vampire, if you eat anything, you drink anything, you have to violently vomit it up before you go to sleep that night. With your higher humanity levels, you can now enjoy food. You can now actually not throw it up. You can wake up a bit before the sun sets. There's a lot of benefits. Big thing though, is just a me thing. I'm personally not into the idea of vampires having any form of access to like enjoying food, water, sex, sleep, whatever, because that's the aspect I enjoy. I enjoy the idea of it being a monstrous thing. However, with 5th edition Vampire, I really, really like the unsaid thing of this all existing, because now you can see all of the benefits Humanity 10 gets you. That's a character goal now. The other reason I think this is fun is because it's a trade-off. Because once you get the opportunity to raise your humanity in V5, if you want to increase it, you have to spend experience points. You have to spend your points to make you a better vampire, to make you a better human. Mechanically speaking, it fixes my issue. It fixes my issue, as a vampire, I think it is a more tangible, tragic story for you to play a character who's now remembering, I don't know, I used to go to McDonald's every week. Like, that was kind of fun. I miss those fries. That's actually a pointed reference to something. I did a one-shot for Vampire the Masquerade, and my players had a scene where they were like, I can never eat McDonald's fries again. Or like have McDonald's Sprite. Yeah, fair enough, that'd be kind of sad. It's sad to lose those simple pleasures. It's sad to be like, damn, I can never fuck again. Damn, I can never like get perfect sleep again. I can't have that feeling of cool, crisp water when I'm like super thirsty. You never get that again. I like the idea of you working for it. That's the big thing. Because the option to do what I'm talking about is still here, and I'm a huge advocate in tabletop games to have things be open and give the players all of the tools possible to tell the story they want to tell. I will always advocate for just more things for you to do. So for that, I enjoy this. But yeah, that's kind of it. Very different video to my normal pure lore thing. There's a lot of mechanical information. I might go into some other subjects when it comes to Vampire, but we'll see. But yeah, that's gonna be it. So I want to give a huge shout out to my channel members who make all these videos possible. Super appreciative. And my top tier channel members, want to give a huge shout out to them. That being Lucky Finds 23, Pork Chomp, and Czar Shadow. Thank you all so much. So generous. Thanks. But yeah, other than that, like, comment, subscribe, join my membership. I don't know, more YouTube things, share video. See ya.